last 10 years. Blaze King stoves are very efficient, they're easy to maintain, and they use a lot less wood than you would typically use with a fireplace.
Blaze King, that's a fire.
The heat is on when it's a Blaze King wood stove.
Welcome to the Southwest Style Incorporated Bracket Breakdown Show here. It is an early Sunday morning in our ProView Network studios. Sebastian Noel, my broadcast partner from the My50 Game of the Week, John Chavez, and Aaron Rivera. Aaron, I can smell the Visine all the way from here. Anywho, a lot to talk about. I think the headline off the top, Mustangs are in, Scorpions are out. That's kind of a big one, right?
Yeah, especially since in the Max Preps ranking, Farmington was ranked 10th. So definitely the coaches had probably different viewpoint and other criteria, so affected that.
So kudos to PV, right? Because they beat Farmington. I know you're a big PV fan, Aaron. So they beat Farmington in the last district game of the season. So by the criteria, they have to be seated ahead of Farmington. So the criteria points put PV in at that 11, and then West Mesa wins the head-to-head tiebreaker wins the criteria tiebreaker with the Mustangs. So the Mustangs get in over Farmington. Congratulations to PV, though. Proof that if you win, you can get in, and that's what they did.
Not just if you win, but you have to spend the season, adding things to your resume. You have to have the victories over your district opponents. You have to have victories over other opponents. I mean, that's what we're going to see all throughout the brackets is when you have those head-to-head wins, that will bump you over somebody else. You can end up being 4 instead of 5. You can end up being 8 instead of 9. And, with Piedra Vista, it's an old-school looking offense, but at the same time, they were in the state championship for 5A only, 2 years ago. And now in 6A, they are into the playoffs.
Old school means boring, right?
It means
3 yards in a cloud of dust.
Okay, yeah. Thank you,
Yeah,
John,
not boring
for translating that.
because defensive coordinators love that type of offense, and you move the chains. We saw it with Valencia. Depending on weather, they can be a dangerous team in 4A.
Right.
Well, that Kaiser kid, he can run. It was something that when I had them versus Sandia early in the year, Elias Franco, who works with El Dorado, said, if you can't shut down the ISO run up the middle, then your life's over for a defense. I mean, a guy like that, Kaiser, who can just run up the middle and get 6, 7, 8 yards every single run, is just going to run up the field. It's going to take 6, 7, 8 minutes off the clock. It's a cool-looking offense if you don't want to see passing.
Hey, you mentioned the El Dorado Eagles, so I want to smoothly segue into that. The Eagles have been playing some pretty good football to end the season, haven't they?
Indeed.
Yeah. What has changed?
7-3 record, but it's also a youth movement. We're seeing younger players making bigger contributions to their teams, and maybe that's pushing the seniors and getting them the entire program rather than just relying, say, on a senior class. When you have some younger players, especially seeing that with St. Pius too.
I think if you would have told Charlie Dotson, hey, you're going to be 7-3 this year, he wouldn't have believed it.
I agree.
Right? But they're playing. You've done a few of their games. They're playing good football.
They're playing good football, and what was interesting to me is that they had the quarterback out. He left the game during the La Cueva game, comes back I think 2 weeks later. So the game when they did not have him, they had their tight end playing quarterback,
right,
and they still were able to get it done. The rest of the team was able to rally out. That's good football, and that's the kind of stuff that will help push you further into the playoffs because your team can rally without having one of the most necessary players on the field.
Well, even just from your top 10s, I see you had 2 pick sixes, I think.
You watched those?
Yeah, we saw them on the top 10.
Okay, all right.
All right.
Somebody watches them. That's what's important
but
here.
in our
Somebody's
game,
looking.
they had a kickoff return for a touchdown, or was it a punt return? But either way, they're getting it from all phases.
Yeah.
And when you can score we saw the Bears win a Super Bowl because Devin Hester could return touchdown.
And you bring up Moorhead. He was our player of the game that week. That was not his first. That was not his first return of the year for a touchdown, and that was not his last either. He did it again after they were on the My50 Game of the Week. So they're definitely getting special teams.
Jahari Moorhead's a really, really good player for that El Dorado.
Yeah, I don't know why people are still kicking to him at this point.
Yeah, well, not only that, but
if 5, right?
The smart defenses, when you watch games, El Dorado will try and isolate Jahari Moorhead and just get the ball to him and have him run out. The good defenses are like, all right, well, we're going to just isolate this guy ourselves. We're going to put 2-3 guys on him. And, you can get him the ball, but he's going to be swarmed, and then they have to find other ways.
Speaking of smart defenses, Texaco That's a team that is dominating right now into a offense, defense. They have everything they need for a pretty easy roll to the championship there. Is Eunice the team that could trip them up? Is it a Santa Rosa? I know you're a big Legacy Academy guy, Aaron. You can't possibly make the case for that. Can
Hold
you?
on, before I get labeled the Legacy Academy guy, I mean, Santa Rosa is the team that I would look at because, I mean, number one, they're the Lions. And, I mean, you've seen what Santa Rosa can do. They can also return the ball. So, in the game against Legacy Academy, Santa Rosa led the entire time until it was tied up. And then Santa Rosa returns the next kick, and they're able to shut down Legacy Academy as they go. So, Santa Rosa has, and I mean, that's a team that every year will go to the championship. So, I'm looking more at Santa Rosa. Could be Eunice, but I think Santa Rosa is the one who gets through.
John, if defense wins championships, you got to really like Cleveland's chances because they haven't allowed any points.
Yeah,
now, granted, that district is not what it used to be, right? Yeah. But still, that defense for the Storm has looked really good. Talk about them.
Oh no, their defenses look great, and you look at I think the two top class is definitely the Hawks, and especially since Cleveland proved it on the field that they were the better defense, they were the better team when they faced off, and then they have a very potent offense to go along with that. But when you can have that shutdown type of defense, it really messes with you. And now that the weather's starting to change, that shifts towards the defense's advantages.
Another really good defense, Bloomfield. They've allowed 47 points all season. You go with that defense with their offense, which is Coach Kovacs has that offense just rolling, has had them rolling for years now, right? It's going to be hard for St. Pius or anyone else to stop Bloomfield's run to a perfect season.
No, and especially with Lovington leaving the district, that was the only team that really could. I mean, in the last few years, it was Lovington that you're looking at versus Bloomfield, but now, yeah, they've got an open look. I mean, it'll be interesting when we actually see the brackets, who they're going to have to work their way through once they get to that championship. Although, to bring back this question about 6A and defense, I mean, defense wins championships, but so does Cam Dyer.
Yeah, Cam Dyer wins championships.
So does Cam Dyer. I mean,
Yeah, because if you really look at it, we talk about their front seven of La Cueva with Mason Posa up there, but they've been giving up points.
Right.
They've been giving up points as to where Cleveland and Volcano haven't,
Right.
But what a great point you make. They have Cam Dyer.
Yeah, Cam
Dyer
shredded that defense in the championship. There's no reason to think that he wouldn't do it again, right? Yeah. Lastly, two more points. I know the guys want us to go to brackets quickly, but you brought up Lovington. So what happened to Lovington? Was it too much shine too early, you think? Mm-hmm. Or, I mean, because they hit that 4-game losing streak during district, and that's devastating. We just don't look at Lovington the same way anymore, do we?
No, we don't. And good on them. They get the win at the end of the season, right? So they get that last win, which it's exactly as you're talking about. So you get on a roll early in the season, and the one thing that every coach says is you don't want to peak too early, right? And they did. They peaked too early, but to get this win at the end of the season, maybe they can roll that as some momentum into the playoffs. Because it's Lovington; they know how to win in the playoffs. So
you lose to Artesia, no harm, no foul, right?
Yeah.
Then the next week, okay, a little head scratcher against Mayfield, still a quality football team. But then the third one there, is Gadsden, and then you back that up with the loss against Deming, and that leaves the Lovington bandwagon a little lighter than it was at the beginning of the season.
But these losses aren't losses by 15, 20 points. These are all one-score games that Lovington dropped, which still looks bad on the resume. It's still going to drop you down the rankings, and but they're only one-score losses, so it means that the team's in it. You don't have these scores where you're down by 30 the whole way, except for against Artesia they had a little bit more than that, but we'll see.
Last conversation point, and this will lead right into the 6A bracket.
Ooh.
Okay, so I was tuned into the radio this week. John and I talked about this a little bit.
Oh.
And that guy that used to work here, I think his name was Adam, was talking to James Yotis, right? Who we all love James. And James made a very point. I don't know, interesting might be the word, right? And he said if he was seeding, I mean, he knows what the criteria is, but for him, La Cueva's the third best team. He says Cleveland, he would put Cleveland, or he would put Centennial, Cleveland, or no, how did he? Cleveland, Centennial, La Cueva. Obviously, the big headline, the clickbait there, was his slight of the La Cueva Bears. So I ask you guys, both of you, starting with John, can you take up that point for James, or do you think, no, until someone beats him, they're number one?
Yeah, until Cam Dyer's graduated.
Right.
Yeah. So because I remember first game of the season and talking to their offensive coordinator, felt real confident and real great about his passing ability. And I know they've worked on it a lot during the season, but when you linger around 50% completion percentage, come the playoffs, you're going to be running. He's going to be running the ball and being the most devastating athlete in the state, and just a nightmare for deep. But I even looked at Centennial. They have that dual threat quarterback. He's their leading
Centennial
passer.
could pose problems for Cleveland. If Cam Dyer gives Cleveland problems, then Centennial's quarterback will as well. All right, Aaron, are you Team James on this, or are you going to?
No, literally
you're
makes
LaQueva all
no
the way?
sense to me. So I can understand where if we're not using the criteria and we're just doing it.
Well, that's what
like-
he's saying, eye test, but to me it doesn't pass the eye test either.
If we're doing just the eye test, though, I feel like you could make the case for maybe Centennial first versus La Cueva, but you can't put La Cueva third. That
Right.
literally makes no sense. I mean, the difference between La Cueva and Cleveland is La Cueva had their backups in that gave up a little bit more points than Cleveland in the backside of games, but they scored the same amount of points on offense all year. Literally, same number, 461, is what both of them put up, and then Cleveland lost the big game to Centennial, whereas La Cueva took that game on the road out in Arizona, and they won it.
Yeah. And I think what came to my mind when I heard it, obviously I know he's saying eye test, he knows what the criteria is, but to me, you can't make that argument when La Cueva has the best two players in the state on their roster.
Potentially three.
Yeah, I mean, when you have Mason Posa, you have a Cam Dyer, I mean, you just can't make that argument that somehow they could slide into being the third best team. Plus they're the defending champs, plus they're undefeated, plus they have the Gatorade Player of the Year. So I didn't want to just toss that around with you guys.
I think if I were him, I think his only argument would be that their district play. I mean, not their district play, but their district opponents. I think it's probably the weakest district in 6A. And
District 1's not that great anymore either.
yeah, but you still have three of the 8 teams.
Yeah.
Three of the 8 teams.
We have a Rio Rancho team that's pretty one-dimensional,
Yes,
right?
yes.
And then, of course, you have Volcano Vista. We'll talk about the Hawks right now as we bring up the 6A bracket here. That's the first one I want to go through. Well,
seating
the criteria.
criteria.
I think at this point, everyone's seen the brackets and the criteria, but there it is. Finish in regular season district play. That's why Farmington is sitting at home, and PV is in, by the way. Head-to-head, overall record, Maps Preps rankings, and then the final coaches poll, which is inputted to the NMAA. If there's a tie, head-to-head is the first tiebreaker, and then it goes to the Max Preps strength of schedule. So that's the criteria. The one that was removed from last year was wins against district champs. I'm sure a lot of people are happy that one's out of there. Mm-hmm. All right, let's get that off, and let's get the bracket up there. The number 8-9 matchup is an interesting one. El Dorado against Hobbs, a battle of the Eagles. We already talked about El Dorado playing much, much better football down the stretch, right? They get to stay home where Hobbs has to make the 5.5-hour trip. John, who do you like in that game? Tell us why.
Well, I see Hobbs' output. I see quality wins. I thought, just even going off just the Max Preps, I thought if they're a 12 seed, that's my hot upset pick because I was going to ride Hobbs, but I'll take Hobbs because I think that they've done well against strong opponents and they put up offense.
Coach Stevens has won a championship when he was the head man at Eunice, obviously. All right, Battle of the Eagles there, Aaron. What do you see there?
It kind of depends. Does El Dorado have their quarterback back? Does El Dorado's defense still put up the same quality? Because obviously we've just been talking about the difficulties of districts. El Dorado does have to face La Cueva in their district, but at the same and Los Lunas. So do they have enough seasoning under them that their defense is going to shut down Hobbs? That'll be kind of the question when you're looking at that one. I like El Dorado.
All right, so we got a split on that one. Nice. The 5-12 matchup features Las Cruces, the Bulldogs, against the Mustangs. West Mesa, the number 12 team, just barely sneaking in there at the end. I'll tell you what, West Mesa, fortunate to get into this thing because I really thought that out of all those teams in District 2, they were in the driver's seat because they had their first 2 district games were against La Cueva and Las Lunas. They got those losses out of their way, and then they had everything in front of them, and they almost didn't get into this thing. But turn the page, they're in it now, and they get a matchup down at the Field of Dreams against Las Cruces. What do you see in that matchup, John? Las Cruces has a lot of talent. The talent disparity in that matchup is pretty glaring.
I remember doing the Las Cruces Volcano game in the second week of the seasons, and I saw the flashes of them being maybe one of the best. They have the potential to be one of the best balanced, both be able to run the ball effectively and be able to, they have talented receivers, good quarterback, but if they don't shoot themselves in the foot like they did against Volcano in the second half. So, but I still want to go Cruces here. I mean, West Mesa's still trying to figure out replacing Brody, and I know they've had a tough. Gonzalez was the quarterback, the one that was tough.
Depends on what
Yeah, I
you're
know,
watching,
but that's
right?
what I'm saying
Yeah.
is they have the tough short quarterback, or they have the athlete that they'll put back there.
Galletti.
Yeah, Galletti. So
No relation to our Scott Galletti.
yeah. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, I'll
Still
start.
different.
I think Cruces, and then the rematch. If they do win, they go on to Volcano, and I can't wait to talk about that one.
All right, first that 5-12, Aaron. I mean, West Mesa, they're in there. That's a difficult trip against a really good team, a team that probably thinks they deserve to be in the top 4 because of talent. I know Coach Brody's going to try his best to just run the ball, make the long possessions, take as much of the clock as possible. Can they pull a major upset here, or what do you think about that matchup?
I think John pretty much nailed this because, Las Cruces has a good quarterback in Guardiola. They've got Amaro who can run the ball, and so if you're
Libby
West,
is legit. There's not a West Mesa student on that campus that's as tall as Libby, right?
So I mean, the big question, and I'm not a football coach, but if I'm West Mesa, you have to just start with Galletti. There's at this point we've seen what the shorter quarterback can do, and just can't get it done there. And so going halfway through the game and putting Galletti, which has worked for them,
Right.
it is an effective strategy. But maybe just start with Galletti at the beginning of the game and see, make all your game plan around that. That's the only way that I can see West Mesa being able to really put this one into a close game, is that you have to start with him and you have to be running some of the stuff that we saw them run when Brody was the quarterback.
Right.
I mean, some of this stuff where the quarterback can be a threat on
But I think
the ground.
if you go with Galletti at quarterback, you're sacrificing the passing game because that's the best receiver.
Certainly
right?
so,
So
but-
you're committing to the run at that point.
You are committing to the run, but he can throw the ball, but I feel
To who? Not to himself. He can't throw it to himself. I mean, I think you're committing to the run at that point. I think what I'm hearing is that no one sees an upset there.
No chance.
Okay. The 6-11 is Las Lunas against PV. Congratulations again to the Panthers. They'll get to visit Las Lunas. It's an interesting matchup. Two teams that are pretty familiar with each other over the last few years. Aaron, I'll start with you. I know you're a big PV guy, our resident PV expert, as a matter of fact. Can you make the case for them upsetting Las Lunas?
I mean, I don't know why I get
you're
labeled
waffling
as
big
the
here.
Piedra Vista. I mean, I already said it before, but the way Piedra Vista is going to win that game is the same way that they've been winning for years. So they're running that wishbone, or the coach wants to call
Triple
it one
option.
thing. It's an option run game. They want to control the clock. They want to control the ball. And if Piedra Vista is going to win, then that's what they're going to do. They're going to be able to pick up 3 to 5 yards every single run all game long. Can they do it against Las Lunas?
Can they do it against a Greg Hennington coach defense? What a job Coach Hennington has done, John. I thought there was a lot of questions coming into the season for Las Lunas. They were replacing a lot. But, man, that guy could coach. What a job. The 6th seed. Tell us a little bit more about Las Lunas. What do you like there?
Well, again, very similar. They have a dual threat quarterback where Caden Reese, you know, he has 93 yards, 930 yards, 931 yards passing on the season, but then also rushing, he's at 709. So he counts for almost 180 yards of offense by himself every game. So he's the threat that if Pedro Vista does want it, they have to stop him.
Right.
So.
The last matchup of the opening round is the 7-seed Rio Rancho at home against the 10-seeded Sandia Matadors. We've seen both teams, John. 7-10 is usually indicating a tight ball game. I don't know if I'm subscribing to that in this matchup. What are your thoughts?
I think Rio Rancho has the advantage. I know they've taken the lumps their last 2 weeks, and hopefully it's hardened them and made them tougher. And I know they have that, and I didn't see what the result was, a stat line in the last game against Cleveland, if they were still switching quarterbacks, because we had them when they were switching, but then they had
Ariano and Takahashi have been splitting time at quarterback.
Yeah,
That's
so-
been quite the controversy over in the city of Vision all season long.
But I think I have faith in their coaching staff that they'll get that straightened out and find some consistency, and hopefully their defense will show up, which we're used to seeing over the years.
Aaron, your thoughts on that matchup?
Well, so, you know, we talk about the switching quarterbacks at Rio Rancho, but Sandia, they've gone with the sophomore all year long.
Right.
You know, and obviously there's championship, you know, coaches won a championship before. I think that is the potential bracket buster that's in 6A.
Wow.
Is Sandia being able to, you know, the defense is going to have to be strong against Takahashi and Ariano, but I think that is potentially the biggest bracket buster that we see in the 6A side, is Sandia could potentially beat Rio Rancho.
I just don't see that one. With Philip Martinez's defense there, he's a sophomore quarterback. You know, Jordan Bird's not walking through those doors, right? For Coach Adcox, not this week.
It'd be real cool if he did.
If they would let Lewis loose and turn him into a dual threat quarterback.
But not against this defense, John.
Yeah, no.
I just think the defense is going to be too good.
But we saw Hansen. He was able to gain
Right.
positive yards against them, you know, and it was more about him just scrambling and not being sort of a dual threat. But I think Lewis has that potential.
Plus, Sandia's battling some injuries. The health of Thomas Adams, so he'll probably not play that game. Who knows? Is Gad Harris going to be back in there? They don't have Adams. That's their best defensive player. They don't have Harris. That's their starting running back. They don't have a chance with those two guys missing.
But do you know who they do have is Harris.
The other Harris, yeah.
Joey
Yeah,
Harris.
That's right. They do
And,
have Joey.
I mean, that's the way that offense really functions, is that Joey Harris is the go-to guy, and as long as Lewis can get it to Joey Harris,
Right.
then
But-
they can potentially make it. Now,
I don't think
mean,
you're
Rio
gonna be able
Rancho
to-
will know to shut him down, but
You're not going to be able to complete those passes when you're laying on your back. That's the other thing, right? Like this Rio Rancho defense, they're going to get after the quarterback. So that sets up the second round. You see La Cueva at the top there against either Eagles team. Volcano. Okay, let's do it this way. Do you see any of those first rounders that you picked as winners going through all the way to the semis?
Cruces.
Okay, so you like Cruces to knock off Volcano Vista in the quarters there.
And I think in a rematch, you know, Volcano Vista won the game and Las Cruces lost it mainly because of defensive secondary mistakes, wide open receivers on play action pass in the second half. And it was a tale of two halves in that game. I just see Cruces as being a much more complete team. If they can figure out their potential of being able to throw the ball with those stud receivers that they have, but Volcano has a great defense. They've only given up a double-digit score once, and that was to La Cueva, 21-0.
I do think, to pick up that point, I think Volcano has a championship caliber defense, right? But once you get into those rounds against those kind of opponents, that's when complementary football has to be played, right? So can the offense and special teams complement that really, really good Volcano defense? Okay, you see that same matchup, obviously. You see Cruces Volcano as well. Aaron, how do you see that game playing out?
I mean, that's where I think John was correct to bring that one, because, you know, Volcano and Las Cruces to 4-5, obviously close seeds. You know, this has been the year that we're all kind of looking over at Elijah Hansen and saying, is this going to be the season where they have that consistent quarterback play? And it's been there some of the games. And so I would love to see the Bulldogs, you know, get us a lower seed up into the semifinals, but I do think that we've seen enough out of Volcano's offense that when the game is on the line, you can trust that offense to get through.
The only point I want to make about that, and I'm going to choose my words wisely. I want to be able to trust the play calling in a tight game against Las Cruces. That's what I want to. That's what I need to trust. I trust
Based on years past?
Yeah, based on my experiences seeing those games, I trust Elijah Hansen. I want to be able to trust the play calling. I want to be able to trust that if we're close enough, we're going to give the ball to D'Lo and he's going to punch it in.
Yeah.
I want to trust that if Mason Gourlay's running, we're going to feed that horse. That's what I need to be able to trust is the play calling. All right, so that takes us into the semis. What do you guys have there?
Well, I mean, if it's Volcano La Cueva, I just don't know if they have. I mean, their defense has proven that they can hold them to 21 points, but you still lose,
Right.
So I just don't. I think that they definitely have maybe the number 2, if not number 1 defense in the state, but I don't think it's enough to stop Cam Dyer's legs.
Right.
And now with Cheeto Lambrera and Montano, the best one of the best receivers in the state. So it becomes tough because if you just stack the box, then even if he hits one out of those 3 fades to Montano, those are easy scores. So you're in a tough spot for facing, with that La Cueva matchup.
Aaron, why don't you pick up the bottom there? I'm assuming you're going to have a Centennial Cleveland semifinal, right? Talk about that.
Yeah, and obviously big news or big deal for Cleveland because that's the one team that beats them all year, right, is Centennial. And exciting game the whole way through. It was played in Rio Rancho. Now Cleveland's going to, well, it depends on
owes
the...
who on
Yeah, I don't know who owes who in that
It
series.
depends on the whole who owes who stuff, but
I
assuming they'd be down south, that makes it even better for Centennial because the big question, if you're Cleveland, is are these guys already in the kid's head? Is with Centennial, do these Cleveland kids have that thought in their head like, oh, this team beat us, they're going to beat us again, or do they have that mentality of we're going to beat these guys? What happened that first time, which again, that game was tight until the very end. Do they have the drive in them to say, hey, this time we're getting them. This time we're not even going to leave. They can't leave that game. If Cleveland's going to win that game, they can't leave it till the later parts of the game. It has to be, they have to decide it probably by the third quarter. Otherwise, I start to fear that the mentality stuff's going to start creeping in.
All right, John, so we move ahead to the championship then. Tell us about that. What do you
Well,
have?
either one's going to be a treat if it's Cleveland or Centennial facing La Cueva, but and again.
By the way, both of those teams would, I believe, owe La Cueva. So that game would be at Wilson Stadium regardless of opponent. I believe. I think Coach Back said both of those teams owe La
Gotcha.
Cueva.
So, and I was just about to say it depends on where they're having to play it, but I know Cleveland, they're having to rebuild some pieces over the Wysong eras and Nick Trujillo era, and they've had Jordan Hatch now for 2 years. So.
I like Jordan Hatch a lot, by the way.
Yeah.
Not a lot of people give him the credit he deserves because they have so many weapons, right?
Yeah.
I've been a Jordan Hatch fan for a couple of years.
Yeah.
He completes it at a high rate. They don't throw it that much anymore, right?
Yeah.
But he can sling it. I'm a big fan. I don't
Yeah.
think people give him the respect he deserves.
He's not bringing him down. I think I'll take Centennial over La Cueva.
Okay, all right, Aaron. I'll
Is
go
he
with you.
related to the setter?
What's that?
Is he related to the setter?
No.
Okay, yeah, I heard Hatch, so.
No.
No, I like Centennial for that matchup, and like I said, defense wins championships, and so does Cam Dyer.
Oh, and you're
So you're taking La Cueva over.
Centennial.
All right, got it. All right. Should we go to another bracket, or do you want to take a commercial break here, Jay? All right, let's keep going then.
5A,
5A bracket is next. We talked a lot about these teams already, so I want to just go straight into matchups. Mayamura and Highland is the 8-9. The Highland Hornets have to travel. Talk about that, Aaron.
Well, so they already played once this year, right? So they played here in Albuquerque. Mayamura beat them 36-31. And
Was that with or without Amiri Mumba in that game? Do you know?
I don't remember.
'Cause remember,
I was
he
not
missed a
covering
chunk.
that one. Yeah, but at the same time, Now we got to travel to, you guys got to travel down to Gallup. I like the Patriots.
You do? You like the Patriots
I like
there?
the Patriots there.
All
I mean, Moomba is such an impressive player, and what Coach Lovato has been doing, like when you watch Highland, you see a lot of really interesting offensive play calls that are there to get Moomba into really good positions.
Right.
And I really love the creativity with the play calling that Highland has. So I would not be surprised if the Hornets get past Maimura.
I am going to join you guys in picking the 5A bracket because I'm not calling this championship. But so I do like Highland. I like Highland by a lot, actually.
Yeah.
So I like the Hornets there. John?
I'll take the Highland Hornets also.
All right, so then we have the Hilltoppers, Los Alamos. Congratulations to them. They get the Valley Vikings. The Vikings sneak in there at the 12 seed. I know they were waiting to see if Santa Teresa would skip them after their stellar 1-9 season, but the Vikings are in, and they get the Hilltoppers. Congratulations to Coach Williams, 7-3 season. Had them on top of that district there. Boy, Valley misses a lot from last year. It's just not the same team, right? They limped into this thing. Do they have a chance against Los Alamos?
No, I think the Hilltoppers will take this one.
Aaron?
Well, I mean, so the grand question is the quarterback situation over there, right? So
No,
the
I
first
think-
time,
I think they have more questions than that. That's the problem.
yes, but so the first time they played 63-33, but I mean, in the games I've watched Valley all season long, obviously they want to go with Butkovich at quarterback, but I just think that you have to go with Jaramillo in the actual tournament. Jaramillo's been a better quarterback for them throughout the season, but yeah, it's going to be the defense. You can't just sit there and hope that Juan V. Hill's going to single-handedly beat a defense or an offense all on his own. They're going to have to get some kind of action from the defensive backs, the linebackers, and that's going to be a real tough game for them, but would be cool for Valley if they win. I just don't see it.
6-11 is Mayfield and Belen. Mayfield coach Gary Bradley, 4-6 record, but they played pretty good schedule there. As a matter of fact, one of the tougher strength of schedule in 5A. Do the Eagles have a chance there against Mayfield traveling to the Field of Dreams? John, what do you think?
That'd be a pretty tough sell there. Mayfield's had some decent wins this year, but no, I'll still stake with the Trojans.
Aaron, does Lovington's free fall continue, or do they right the ship in the opening round against Goddard and that's 7-10?
No, that's the time where they finally turn around. So we've got the one win last week. I think that Lovington's on an upward trajectory right now for the Goddard Rockets. That's the situation. Another team, so first season at the helm. For Art over there at Goddard, they're still running similar looking offense to what they've had in years past, but this would be a good time. I mean, again, this 7-10 is where you see this bracket busting, and so the question is, can Coach Bolaños beat Lovington? And that is that's one of the teams that they did not beat in this district for the Lovington Wildcats. For the Goddard Rockets, is Lovington did not lose to Goddard. While they had that really long stretch where they lost, they did not lose to Goddard, and I don't see them losing to Goddard here.
All right, so let's just cut out all the extra stuff. We're looking at another Roswell Artesia Classic, right? Can everyone agree on that, or do you want to make the case for someone else, Aaron?
I won't say nothing about nothing.
I agree with that.
We're going to head towards that, right?
Yeah.
All right. So with a Roswell and Artesia championship, if you don't want to pick, that's okay, Aaron. I know that. But I want to ask you some questions about the two teams.
It'll be in Roswell this year, right? Because last year it was in Artesia.
I believe.
Yes, it was
right?
in Artesia
So it'll
last
be in the
year.
Wool Bowl, okay? Yeah. What a contrast in styles. The defense has to be Roswell, right? The edge has to go to Roswell there. I just think they play a more physical, defensive brand of football under Coach Lynn. I mean, this is an Artesia team that gave up 70 points to Centennial, but they put up points. That's the thing. And in those games, traditionally, those tend to be higher scoring championship games. It doesn't seem like the defense always wins in those matchups. So, I mean, Roswell's defense, Artesia's offense, right? What's going to give there? I mean, tell us about those two teams a little bit, Aaron.
Yeah, well, so what you're talking about really is the question we had last season, because Roswell's defense last year, it was the same situation.
Right.
They had a significantly better defense than what showed up in the championship game, and yet in the championship game, Artesia just bombed the ball down there and got something like 3-4 touchdowns for 20 plus yards each time. The question is, can Coach Lynn bring that defense? And he has significant coaching experience, coaching in the college levels and now back here at the high school levels. And you really like to see what they can do. But Artesia, as you mentioned, this is a team that year in, year out, everybody knows that Artesia is trying to get a state championship.
Right.
They want to open that giant number 1 on top of the stadium. And obviously graduating out their quarterback from last season, and they've gone to a little bit more multiple of a look, but Cazares is now the quarterback, and he's just getting, touchdowns on touchdowns on touchdowns. It's just the train that never seems to stop.
It's next man up.
It's
that
the train that doesn't
system starts when they play Pee Wee, right?
Yeah.
And they goes all. So it doesn't matter. The faces will change. The results don't seem to. With all that being said, John, who do you like in a Roswell Artesia championship
Well,
that would be played at the Wool Bowl in Roswell?
October 18th, they played. Roswell beat them 44-40. So, and now playing at home, gosh, I'd still stick with Roswell.
I'm going to go with the Bulldogs. I always like the other team in the rematch. I think the adjustments, but I would not be surprised if it was another close game. I think that has the potential to, again, be the best championship game on Championship Saturday.
I don't want to leave Deming out of this one, though. I think Deming could potentially get there. But if we are looking at that 1-2, like you mentioned, Sebastian, last year Roswell beat Artesia in the first game, and it was in Roswell, and then they go to Artesia for the state championship and scores flip.
Right.
And really, in that game, Roswell's offense was never in that game. So that's the question for that championship. If we do get a 1-2 in that side, is can Roswell's offense show up?
We have another very dominant number 1 seed, and that's in 4A. The Bloomfield Bobcats under head coach Mike Kovacs. What a season for Bloomfield. We talked about them a little bit at the beginning of the show. This Bloomfield team for 4A, they're legit. That's an offense that their quarterback has just been great all season. Blake Spencer, he's thrown for just over 1,800 yards, 28 touchdowns to just 2 interceptions. And then you combine that with a defense that's only allowed 47 points. We'll get the 4A bracket up there for you here in a second, since we are talking 4A football here. There it is, right? They are a dominant number 1 seed. So the question's going to be, can anyone stop them? But first, let's look at the 8-9, Valencia Moriarty. Valencia is a team, like you, John, that I really was impressed with. They took it to Academy to close out the season. Like you said, they have a running back who's really, really good in Michael Storms. They got a tight end that's good. They can block, offensive line, right? So they definitely are built for some winter playoff weather. I almost wish they weren't an 8 or 9 seed, because I think if they ran into someone other than Bloomfield, like here's an example. If they ran into Bernalillo, I would favor Valencia there. Mm-hmm. If they ran into Taos, I would take Valencia in the upset. But against the top 2 seeds, I just can't make the case. Yeah. So in that 8-9 matchup, I like Valencia, but what about you guys?
So do
you
I.
first.
Yeah, no, their offensive line is very impressive. And even when they were down, they didn't really get out of their comfort level and kind of do squirrely things when we did the game against St. Pius. So they'll stick to their guns and they'll be able to run the ball. And it'll depend, like I said, even in the broadcast, depending on the weather, they're built for cold weather and windy weather.
Aaron?
Yeah, I got Valencia too.
Portales is the 5 against the 12 Chaparral. Season started with such high hopes in Portales. They've really been a bit hard by the injury bug, but I think this is a favorable matchup for them. What do you guys think? Anyone want to make the case for an upset here?
No.
They already beat, Chaparral, and it wasn't a close game when they played. So I think for Chaparral, this is the question of, can we come back and do it the second time? I don't think so.
Espanola Valley gets the home game against Manzano. This is a Monarchs team that picked up some wins early in the season, granted against very weak opponents. But then one of them, unfortunately, my Del Norte Knights. And then they start their free fall a little bit in district, so they've struggled. They limp in at an 11, and they get Espanola Valley. What do you like there, John?
I'm going to take an upset here. I'm going to take Manzano. just the way they play. I think they're going to have a lot of momentum. The way they played St. Pius, they held 14-7.
They did hold down a
You know,
very potent offense.
Yeah, and Carpenter threw the ball 40 times, and he was only like 48%. So they must have either put a lot of pressure on him or played some good secondary coverage. So I'm going to take the upset here, Manzano.
Are you feeling the Monarch mania, Aaron, or no?
I would like to, but I just think Sun Devils, the
There's
way
a mortgage payment.
Yeah, he's got to be able to drive through Espanola. Right? So
Yes.
you're not going to go on that limb?
No, I'm not going to go on that limb.
right.
And, so Espanola Valley's a team that's just going to be working on the ground for the most part.
They
but
don't pass. I have a note here.
2 touchdowns.
13 pass attempts all season. Espanola will just run the rock
They will
right
just
down your
run
throat.
that ball
Yeah.
the whole game, which I think is perfect for Espanola because the plan is to just grind you down into little bits
Right.
as you just run the ball. And I love, I like Espanola for that game.
Grant Silver of 7-10 there. Do you see an upset happening there, either of you? I like Grant's.
I don't think so.
All right, so that takes us to the quarters and semis. All right, Bernalillo, very defensive-minded ball team, right? With the Goons squad there. Bloomfield at the top, we mentioned, they're very complete. Pius, we've seen them. Explosive offense. Good. They force a lot of takeaways. It's an athletic defense. Yeah. I don't think it's quite as dominant as a Bloomfield, or maybe even as a physical as a Bernalillo, but it does the job because it takes away the ball a lot. Very athletic guys back there. How do you see these top 4 seeds shaking out, John?
I will have 1 and 2, Bloomfield and Pius in the championships.
Okay,
so.
all right. Aaron, do you agree there? What do you see heading to the championship?
I mean, I really like what Bernalillo can do. Like, as you mentioned, that defense with like Molinar over there, and then they've got Castro at the quarterback that I like to see Bernalillo. It's going to be interesting watching them in the semifinals. Of course, we always have to figure out who owes who and all of that. But, Bernalillo have put up the big case all season long. The only game that they lost that really, really mattered was the Bloomfield and the Taos games. And the Bloomfield game, they didn't give up a ton of points to Bloomfield. It's a 20-7 loss. And that's one where you sit there and say, well, okay, on the next one, can our offense wake up, show up, and,
I think St. Pius's road to the championship, it's going to have to go through beating Espanola Valley. I think Espanola Valley is going to defeat Taos in the quarters.
Wow.
And Espanola Valley is the team that knocked out St. Pius last year in the playoffs. So I think for Pius to get all the way through, they're going to have to right that wrong from last year. I do see a 1-2 matchup in the championship with Bloomfield and Pius. And, as much as I would like to pick Pius there, I just think they are so talented. With Carpenter, I don't know if anyone has a better arm, right? Carpenter.
No, I agree.
Cale Cox-Liggins is, in my opinion, the best receiver in the state of New Mexico, regardless of classification.
is that just because he was on your show the other day?
No, but he was
Is
on my
that- are
show.
you sure?
But he was on my show.
He is.
He was
He's
on my
good.
show.
This is
No,
a good time to mention the
No,
local focus
that's
with
a-
Sebastian Noel.
That's a sheer coincidence. I can assure you.
Sheer
That is a
coincidence. All right.
No, I've been saying that for years. That he's that guy, right? He's only a sophomore. He's 6'1", 6'2". He talked to Daryl Stoneham a little bit last year. He runs great routes, catch radius, right? But they're young. They're so young.
They're really young.
I mean, and what I saw at the beginning of the season was a young team that committed a lot of penalties, made a lot of sophomore mistakes. I just don't think they could navigate all the way through and beat a Bloomfield team that has been there before, done that. I think St. Pius's year will come. I think this group of kids will win a state championship. I just don't think it'll be this year. I like Bloomfield in the championship there.
So are you saying Espanola Valley versus Bloomfield? That's the
No,
championship.
he's
you're
saying
saying?
Espanola versus St.
Espanola,
Pius.
I think it'll be an Espanola St. Pius semi.
Yeah, so you've got Espanola Valley going against Bloomfield, right?
No, St. Pius. Going
Pius
against
would
St.
beat
Oh, okay.
Espanola Valley there, in my opinion. All right, so that's 4. I mean, you guys didn't pick a winner there, did you? What do you have?
Oh, yeah, Bobcats.
You got
Yeah,
Bloomfield?
Bobcats.
All right, our crew in the back's going Pius. Jason Pohl, Alden Iwani. They're going to go with the Sartans. Yeah, Alden says Manzano. But, he hasn't.
I picked that upset, Alden.
He hasn't. Our directors slept in the office last night, so they're going on fumes.
People sleep nowadays?
Well, not everyone just stumbles in 1 minute before airtime, Aaron.
It was 5.
All right, let's move ahead to 3A. 3A bracket here. We'll talk about the top seeds in a moment. First, the opening round matchups. How about this? I mean, this kind of tells you how weak or watered down 3A is when a Hope team that goes 4-6 gets a first round home game. And that's what the Huskies get. The home game against Thoreau. Thoughts on that?
I'll take Hope Christian.
Aaron?
My thoughts are the same as yours. I understand why the classifications are how they are, but
Do you now?
football. Well, no. I mean, there's just such a disparity in some of these schools, and this is the one sport where Hope doesn't play up a level. So unless they would be a 2A, but at the same time,
I would love.
this is.
By the way, just not to interrupt you there, but
No, go ahead.
I would love to see 2A and 3A combined for football.
Yeah.
Because I think those top 2A teams can take it to the 3A schools. I really do.
Well, and they play each other. So,
Right.
like you mentioned, that, and when you look at a lot of the 2A teams that are on the top, your Santa Rosas, your Eunices, they are beating 3A schools.
Right.
Hope
Do you
Christian's losing to 2A schools
Yeah.
during the
Do
season.
you see any first round matchups there that could produce an upset based on seed? Either of you guys? I think first round, again, when you have such a
Ruidoso?
watered down class, it tends to be pretty chalky. I'm going all chalk in that first round.
Yeah, same with me.
Aaron?
Yeah, I would agree.
So that takes us into the quarters. I still can't make the case for an upset there. I mean, you never know what happens when West Las Vegas and Robertson get together, right? Because
Yeah.
that's a rivalry game. So that all things are out the window there. You could make the case for West Las Vegas there. Does anyone want to go on a limb and say West Las Vegas would beat Robertson?
Tripp might.
Well, okay, but Richard Tripp's not here. So
Okay.
does anyone want to agree with Richard and predict that West Las Vegas, the Dons, could upset Robertson?
Well, Alden would make that case. I just like Martinez is really good for Robertson. I really like what they bring there.
Yeah, he is really good. 23 passing touchdowns, 10 rushing touchdowns. That total dual threat there, right? But in a rivalry like that, nothing matters. Can you see any upsets there, John?
No, I don't see any upsets there.
I'm really excited to see Soren Anand, the senior at St. Mike's. He's their leading rusher, and he's also one of their real key guys on defense as well. Is St. Mike's a dominant 10-0 team? Because Dexter's 10-0 as well. Is St. Mike's head and shoulders the dominant team here?
Yeah, they should run through this. So
What do you think, Aaron?
I mean, I agree, although if we're going to talk about to the finals, that Dexter Robertson game is going to be really good because obviously Robertson, we already mentioned how good Martinez has been this season, but Dexter's also multiple. So, Granados can throw the ball for them. They got Loya who can run the ball, but they've got a lot of guys who can run the ball down
Sophomore
Dexter.
quarterback that can throw the ball. All right, what do you like here in the championship? Give us the matchup and the winner. I'll start with you, John.
I'll say it'll be a rematch there of St. Mike's and Robertson. And St. Mike's beat them, I think, last time 34-21. So, but I think St. Mike's will still prevail. But I think Robertson will get up there.
Those two teams played in district, by the way. That was a St. Mike's win, 34-21. Aaron, the matchup and the winner for you.
I have the same matchup that John just mentioned, although I have a different winner.
Okay,
Oh,
well,
going
that
Robert.
means you like the Cardinals.
I
huh?
like the Cardinals of Robertson. I mean, and obviously these are rivalry games. And just like you were talking about with that West Las Vegas Robertson matchup, I think that in the second time when they're playing it, we're talking late November. What was it, last year or 2 years ago? We had all that snow and everything that affected them, and St. Mike's had to play it at Santa Fe High School. I think that when we're coming into that late part of the season, Robertson, just the players that are there, they play 3 sports a season. I think they have enough just championships, seasoning in them. I think Robertson comes out on top.
I agree. I'll take Robertson over St. Michael's as well. They have that. What you're referring to is that Las Vegas toughness, right? Where they think everyone slights them. They just have that chip on their shoulder, but I just really, really love Gonzalez at quarterback there. I think he can single-handedly win them that game. I think it'll be a lower scoring championship game. So I like that matchup there as well. All right, let's move ahead to 2A. This is, again, I think a bracket where you have a very, very dominant number 1 seed. We'll get to that in a moment. The 8-9's Navajo Prep against McCurdy. The 5-12 is Eunice against Laguna Acoma. Loving against Cuba at 6 and 11. Raton against Jal is the 7-10. Any upsets there in that opening round that you guys could make a case for? Crickets. All right. So all John.
Yeah.
All right. So if we move further into the bracket, I think unfortunate that Eunice is on the same side of the bracket as Texaco. It's always fun when those are on opposite sides of the bracket. But what do you like there? Let's take it to the semis. Do you like the top 4 going through, or do you like Eunice over Tularosa? I think Eunice will win over Tularosa. I see Eunice making it to the semis. John, what are some of your thoughts on that?
Yeah, if there's one spot there, I'd definitely look at Eunice over Tularosa. But I was just checking to see had they played before. But yeah, no, I think that's the
yes,
one
they
spot.
have played. One of Eunice's 3 losses was to Tularosa. So the Cardinals lost to St. Mike's, Tularosa, and Texaco during the season. But the Eunice team, that's a playoff. They're built for the playoffs, right? Like they're all that pedigree. Aaron, take us to that part, quarter semis. What stands out? Answer that question on the Eunice Tularosa rematch for us. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so 3-point game the first time that they played, right? And a 3-point game that was a shootout the first time that they played.
Was that the game that was shortened because of weather? Because I know Eunice had a weather shortened game as well. So, but I can't. I had to look that up. But who do you like there in that rematch?
I mean, like we were talking about on that Robertson side, I love the championship pedigree. Like, I'm sure a lot of people are sick of it in this state, right?
Not me.
Seeing
Not
the same,
me.
No, not
I love me
specifically.
some Cardinal Red.
Not specifically about Eunice, but about how some of these teams just have that. They have
Just
that
win, baby.
it factor. They just win those big games, and Eunice is historically one of those teams that just wins the big games. So yeah, I got the Cardinals.
All right, so that takes us to the championship then. What do you like here? All the way to the championship, the matchup, and the winner.
Hold on, we skipped the semifinal of Legacy Academy in Santa Rosa.
Well, tell me who's going to win that game by getting to the finals.
You know, I think that's the grand question because
Is it
Legacy Academy takes them to a tie game in the fourth quarter. In the last game of the season,
And then they finished the game, right?
well, so they tie the game, and then on the ensuing kickoff,
Okay, so they kept playing
Santa
until
Rosa,
there was a winner.
Santa Rosa returns the touchdown, and they go up by 7. Legacy Academy has the ball. They drive down the field, and they give it up on downs.
Oh, I
with
feel
a
like I'm
chance to turn
there.
it
I feel
over.
like I'm in the bleachers watching.
I'm just saying, so this becomes, that semifinal, I think, is going to be one of the most entertaining games in the 2A bracket because literally they just played and they went down to the end. Legacy, or Santa Rosa's defense showed up. They stopped them on the downs late in that game, and that's how they won. So I think Legacy, they need to, obviously a team that just came up into 11-man football. So, you know, Santa Rosa has that it factors we like to talk about.
Right.
The question is, does Legacy create their legacy?
Oh,
by
boy,
winning
Aaron,
a
you're
big
really
game?
dragging this out. Just please.
I got Legacy.
Okay, all right. All the way through to the
Yes.
championship.
So Legacy,
Yes.
Legacy
But
Texaco.
I don't have them winning, and I have Texaco.
Oh, bless your heart. Okay, all right. So you got Texaco over Legacy, John.
We'll see. Yeah, I'll take Legacy against Texaco, but then Texaco to win it.
I'll take Texaco over Santa Rosa in the championship 1-2 matchup there. Yeah, I just think Texaco. Coach Gilbreth does such an amazing job there. Former Clovis guy. You know, that thing is just a machine there. And they've already beat Eunice. They shut out. They 50-0'd Santa Rosa, by the way, during the season. They beat Eunice. They beat West Las Vegas. They got a good-looking quarterback, running game, defense, all the parts. All right, we're going to take one commercial break. We're only taking one commercial break today. Thanks to our friends at Southwest Style, we've been able to limit to one commercial break. When we come back, we've already picked all the winners, so we're going to go through and just bring what we think some headlines will be coming out of Championship Saturday. One break, and we're back to wrap it up.
I'm a Blaze King customer, and I have been for the last 10 years. Blaze King stoves are very efficient, they're easy to maintain, and they use a lot less wood than you would typically use with a fireplace.
Blaze King, that's a fire.
The heat is on when it's a Blaze King wood stove, controlling heat up to 40 hours on a single load of wood with a built-in thermostat. See for yourself at either Blaze King showroom, Albuquerque and Santa Fe. Blaze King, and now that's a fire.
Well, I'm going to the frontier, walk up to the cashier, order up a root beer and a number one. Cover it with green stuff, one scoop is not enough. Find a booth is real tough, back by the Duke. Meet my family, meet my friends in the quirkiest restaurant I have ever been. All of Albuquerque's favorite spot, it's the Frontier Restaurant.
The Frontier Restaurant is a proud supporter of ProView Networks.
I'm a Blaze King customer, and I have been for the last 10 years. Blaze King stoves are very efficient, they're easy to maintain, and they use a lot less wood than you would typically use with a fireplace.
Blaze King, that's a fire.
The heat is on when it's a Blaze King wood stove, controlling heat up to 40 hours on a single load of wood with a built-in thermostat. See for yourself at either Blaze King showroom, Albuquerque and Santa Fe. Blaze King, and now that's a fire.
You have to show your support for local sports and enjoy a delicious meal at Yeller Sub. At Yeller, we are proud supporters of New Mexico youth sports. We offer a variety of flavorful sandwiches and Bluebell ice cream. Come on in and cheer on your team while you eat.
Yeller Sub is the official Subway sandwich of ProView Networks.
All right, we're going to wrap things up with Sunday headlines. What will the Sunday headlines be after the championship? Okay. I know you guys are confused because we didn't have a production meeting. Well, Aaron, you didn't show up in time. You wouldn't have been at the production meeting anyway. So let me just explain to you how Sunday headlines work, okay? So example, my Sunday headline for the 6A championship is going to be Dyer does it again, goes off against Cleveland defense. That's my Sunday headline for the 6A championship.
So you just picked 6A winners, Sebastian.
Well, I did. I picked a headline. So what's your 6A Sunday headline?
Centennial brings back a championship to Cruces.
Okay. What's your 6A Sunday headline?
Marty brings Yeller Subs to Sebastian.
Okay. That's probably not going to happen. No. Well, we do.
No. I have to agree. But I think it's something. It's more like Posa puts down.
Okay. All right.
Posa puts down Cleveland in a big. It'll be a defensive game.
All right. Okay. All right. So now you guys got the hang of things. All right. So your 5A Sunday headline. John, what's your 5A Sunday headline?
St. Pius shocks the world.
That's 4A.
Oh no, you're right.
Yeah.
You're right. You're right. For 5A, gosh, you have to go. I have to pass.
Mine will be Titletown.
Yeah.
Mine's simple. Titletown.
Yeah.
That's my 5A Sunday headline. Aaron, what's your 5A Sunday headline? I gave my 6A one, so you have to give your 5A one.
I don't have to do nothing,
Come on. You're no fun. What's your 5A Sunday headline?
It's either going to be, as you say, Titletown or
The Wool Bowl was a rockin'.
Yeah.
What a cop-out by Aaron.
Not doing it. Can't catch
Any
me.
others? I mean, I think the other big one would be the Texaco one, I think.
2A.
Yeah, so. Well, that'll do it for us here. We hope you had some fun with us to break down the brackets. Again, please don't send us in your complaints if we didn't pick your team to win.
If you do, then my name's Adam Deal.
Yeah, right. So good luck to all teams. Hopefully we'll have a very healthy and competitive state championship tournament. Log on to the NMAA website at nmact.org for all the bracket information. I think this weekend and into tomorrow, sites and kickoff times will start to kind of populate on that website as well. And of course, championship information as we get closer. You'll see it all there on the NMAA website. For Aaron and John, I'm Sebastian. Thanks to our guys in the back, Jason and Alden. And good luck to all the teams. It's finally here. Playoffs right around the corner.
Well, I'm going to the frontier, walk up to the cashier, order up a root beer and a number one. Cover it with green stuff, one scoop is not enough. Find a booth is real tough, back by the Duke. Meet my family, meet my friends in the quirkiest restaurant I have ever been. All of Albuquerque's favorite spot, it's the Frontier Restaurant.
The Frontier Restaurant is a proud supporter of ProView Networks.
I'm a Blaze King